That drink is this wonderful medication that gives me happy. From the outside, you have a house, 2 beautiful children, a business together, cars, vacations. We're successful. How would anyone see anything otherwise? I was lost. I felt empty. I felt like I'd fallen into a black hole and I couldn't feel anything. It was the most disturbing, horrible experience of my life. One morning, I got lucky. I woke up with cancer because then I had no choice but to respond, right? I go through cancer treatment. I lose my wife. I lose my house. I lose my business. I lose my family. And I end up alone, broken, suicidal, and still alcoholic. It's been going on for 2,000 years since the Stoics. They've been teaching all this personal development. Why isn't it working? Stanford does a study, 95% of people don't reach their goals. Why? $100 billion, 250,000 books, experts on stages and in videos telling us how we can, win and succeed and change. Why isn't it working?
Welcome to the Self-Reflections podcast, where real reflections are shared by real people. Today's guest is Dallas Collis from West Coast of Canada. This episode will be raw, powerful, and deeply personal, but also incredibly insightful for our audience who are curious about or struggle with addiction, trauma, and self-doubt. We'll touch on radical responsibility and how to own your own healing journey without getting stuck in blame. Dallas, welcome to the Self-Reflections podcast. Thank you kindly for joining me on an episode.
Thank you for having me, Klaudia. Happy to be here.
Your journey is one of extreme transformation. I know we connected on a discovery call a few weeks ago. Can you take us back to the beginning? What shaped those deep-seated beliefs of not being good enough for you?
Let's try and start from an agreed position, maybe something we can both agree on. And that is this, that every human being has the same destination. Your parents only wanted for you to be healthy and happy. Their parents wanted for them. All human beings want to reach a place of being at peace of mind, of beauty, love. We can call it happiness. And that we all seek that place in life. Some people work for 50 years at a job to get to what? Retirement. So they can do what? Relax, find that peace of mind. So if we could agree that that is the sort of, in a broad stroke, a basic understanding of all human essence is to be at peace, calm, beauty, happiness. Could we agree on that?
I think so, because I don't think anyone is born innately, damaged or wrong or manipulative. Right. I very much do believe that we're a blank slate when we're born and our experiences that shape who we are. So I think, we want to kind of set the tone that, to begin with, we are very much born in that kind of way, and what the world does to us then shapes us.
Right. So it always kicks off my first question when I'm speaking to people, and that is, what are you waiting for?
Yeah.
If that's the destination, what are we waiting for? And what we're waiting for is what gets in the way. And that's our story. You have a story. I have a story. We are storytellers. I'm introduced to Klaudia at a cocktail party. And I say, oh, hi, nice to meet you, Klaudia. Tell me a little about yourself. And you begin telling me your story. We are yesterday. We are our history. Everything we've learned and been through and heard and read and been taught and experienced becomes pieces of our story that in time we get to a point where we associate ourselves as the story. That story is myself, who I am. And I think the revelation is, it is who we believe we are. That's the distinction. So, like every child, trauma, there's a sense that the initial birth of life is the original trauma. How could it not be entering this world from the beautiful world you just came from? And of course, we all are traumatized in different ways, usually in the first 10 to 15 years of life. And for some, those traumas are heavy, very impactful, big, heavy emotional baggage that some people will carry their whole life. And some people are traumatized lightly. And it's more of a nagging voice in the back of the head for all their life that gives us doubt or a lack of confidence or all sorts of things. Well, I came out of my childhood having been bullied and beaten psychologically and physically. And so the baggage is pretty big. It's pretty painful. And it's tiring to carry around. So I say there are stages in addiction. The first stage of addiction, we all have it. It's called blame. We're addicted to the safety of blaming the circumstance, blame the event, blame the person that did this to me, blame them. And then we grow up, we blame the government, we blame the weather, we blame the economy, we blame the traffic, we blame all sorts of things. We do this throughout our life as an addiction because it keeps us at bay from the real feeling inside, from where the pain resides. It's a safety mechanism.
Yeah, and I want to add there, because it's not that it becomes an addiction initially, right? It's a coping mechanism of survival that at first we step into, right? Whether it's because we don't have access to any other means, especially in those early stages of upbringing, we don't have access to so many things we would use as an adult. So our survival mechanisms kick in and try and protect us, to try and make us understand, why is this happening to me? How am I going to survive through this? And at times, as these narratives are building in those early stages, we try and make sense of the world to keep us going from day to day. We are very resilient beings. And sometimes there are going to be moments where we fall into the trap of overusing something in a way where it then later keeps us stuck, because initially we weren't addicted to blame. We were just trying to make sense of it. But fast forward 10, 20, 30, 40 years, if you've just been reinforcing this same outwardly, I guess, making sense of why things happened, rather than trying to be able to empower yourself through even the most horrific of things, you do feel stuck. And that's where those addictive patterns do fall into our everyday experience of that. I love that you've been able to identify that blame is sometimes an addiction in itself. That's very powerful.
And it is a fence that keeps us from any self-reflection, because it's actually defending us against looking inward. Just keep it all out there in the world. It's not me. I'm not responsible. If I can be blaming, it's not me. I didn't do it. They did it to me. So, so the journey goes on. But the blame is not enough. It loses its potency of defense, because the truth is there in my head going, you're just blaming everybody. And that starts coming up more and more. Now, if the pain's enough, like in my case, well, then I need a better drug. So I go to alcohol, because that's an instant fix. I mean, it's just like magic. Everybody's having fun. I'm out at the nightclub, the bar. Life is great. Oh, these drinks are amazing. And my brain associates that drink is this wonderful medication that gives me happy. I don't feel any of my, it's just gone. This is a terrific magic at first. Of course, over time, just like the blame, it becomes an addiction. If you rely on that escape heavier and heavier, you end up drinking more. You drink stronger alcohol because the medication wears off. You acclimatize. You have to keep pushing to stay away from the pain, to stay ahead of the drama you don't want to face inside of you.
Now, I want to normalize, like when we actually look at childhood trauma, especially psychological and physical abuse, it naturally is going to create core maladaptive beliefs that completely weigh the nervous system down and influence behavior. So the brain naturally then internalizes these early experiences as fundamental truths in reinforcing this shame-based identity that just persists into young adulthood, and then it represents itself in these maladaptive ways of coping. So for you, it was blame to begin with, and then it was alcohol, and you're about to now share that then you needed to one-up it again. So what then happened?
Just to step back for a second from what you just said, that childhood trauma, if that same trauma happened to you 40 years later, 99% of the time, it's not a trauma. It's just an event. Because you have a rational and more logical mind, you can see it as just an event. When you're a child, there is no rational filter. It is purely absorbing. And so it gets absorbed very deeply into the psyche because it has no way of judging what it means in any rational way. And that's
how could we? We're children.
Exactly. And that's why it's a childhood thing, predominantly, not completely, but predominantly. So anyway, so if the drug is wearing off, you have to get a heavier drug. Yeah. If the drug is wearing off, I match up with a person who's in the same river, in the same boat, is also in pain and anger and the drugs and the alcohol, and that's my wife. So you have the two of you. And there's a supportive system in the fight without even acknowledging the fight. Just because now you're living in a part of the tribe. You know, there's something to hang on to. And even in the pain, there's comfort because you have that. Of course, the 25-year marriage, from the outside, you have a house, 2 beautiful children, a business together, cars, vacations. We're successful. How would anyone see anything otherwise? We go to work every single day, never miss work, but I'm drunk every day. Drunk every single day, doing drugs every day, but still functioning. And that functioning fools your mind as well. That keeps it going because it says, see, I'm not really as bad as them. I'm not that
At least
bad.
I can function. At least I can go to work. I'm
not lying in a ditch, so yeah, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
And there's the ego
did you genuinely at that time have this lack of insight that it's actually a problem? Were you in that denial, or was there a part of you that was telling you this is an addiction, this is bad, irrespective of you being able to function? Like, where were you at those times?
I was a fake alcoholic. And what that means is I can stand up and say at that time, oh, I'm an alcoholic. I totally know I'm an alcoholic. But I'm just saying it. I'm faking it because I don't really know. It's not really deep in my conscious to be aware. I'm saying it because it's just a badge of, see, I get by. I am an alcoholic. I know it. I'm okay because I know. Well, I don't. I'm faking it. And that's the sort of fake alcoholism. You see lots of alcoholics have it. Admit to it, but they don't really believe it.
Yeah, no, completely. And you're stuck between like this facade that you're playing in the addiction and then the facade that you're playing in your life outside of the alcohol addiction, right? It's this, no matter where you are, it's not your true authentic self.
Masks are a powerful thing we learn to put on, and they can cover so much. You know, get on stage and put on your act, perform. And we get very good at it. We do it for years, we practice. So the other thing that's happening is the biological reaction to all the stress. And that biological reaction, of course, is the nervous system becoming overloaded. And everyone has the moment or moments when the body starts talking to you and telling you it's time to wake up to what's happening or else. And so for me, 6 months before my year of life collapse started, I woke up one morning and I was lost. I felt empty. I felt like I'd fallen into a black hole and I couldn't feel anything. It was the most disturbing, horrible experience of my life. Worse than cancer, worse than anything that was going to come. It only lasted 2 weeks. Well, that was real depression. And what that was, and I believe depression is a safety valve. It's a safety mechanism in us that depresses the emotional pain down deep. And so you feel this loss of feeling. And when you lose feeling, that's what we are. We are feeling creatures. Everything
Yes,
we
we are.
understand about life is because we feel. We sense things through this idea of feeling it. And so when you have that taken away, it's horrific. That's a wake-up call. I didn't listen. 2 weeks,
Do we
it went
ever?
away. Right.
Do we
And
ever, when the
it went
first kind
away
of
after
wake-up
about,
calls hit?
and after about 2 weeks, it went away. So I'm just like, oh, just a little blip. On I go. About 3 months later, it happened again, the exact same way. I went through it, go back, and then one morning I got lucky. I woke up with cancer. Luckiest day of my life. Absolutely nothing will come close to the luck of doing that, having that arrive. Because then I had no choice but to respond, right? It wasn't like the depression and it goes away. This isn't going to go away on its own. You're going to have to do something. So that's in a pandemic. And over the next 12 months, exactly inside of 12 months to the day, I go through cancer treatment. I lose my wife. I lose my house. I lose my business. I lose my family in any way you can think about being attached as a family. And I end up alone, broken, suicidal, and still alcoholic. I mean, I don't know
Dallas,
if you can get lower, or you can even, I don't even know I can really articulate that position to be in, because it's so lost. It's like the depression, but you're aware and feeling it. So it's worse in a
there's
way.
no more barriers that are keeping you from the depths of what you've been, I guess, keeping at arm's length the whole time. It's as if it completely washes over you like a wave, and you just can't breathe throughout it.
Yeah, and in that moment, it's irrational. There is no rational, logical way to view it. You're just in it. It's like you're in a storm, holding on to the edges of the boat, hoping you don't get thrown over. And that's all you're doing.
Yeah.
Just holding on. So, and that's when the door comes open and the light comes in. That's when everything changes. And two things happened. The first one was a friend showed up when I was planning my suicide. I had passed thinking I would. I was planning to do it. And a friend showed up and we talked. And he saw that I felt weak, destroyed, unable to do anything, unable to get out of that boat, And he said, wait a second. You went through cancer, lost your wife, your house, your business, your family, alcoholic. You went through all that and it didn't kill you? How strong must you be? And that was like, what? You mean, I thought this was weakness. Is that strength? I'm still here? Is there a reason I'm still here? So that began to open the door of saying, I need to investigate. I need to think about this.
And I want to highlight that not everyone has a single rock bottom moment, right? When we have that spiral down, sometimes it's gradual, while others take a really, really hard wake-up call, like as in your case, it was an illness of cancer. When we look at trauma specialists often talk about how suffering can be a catalyst for growth, but only when a person is actually ready to shift their perspective. You had boasts of depression prior to that, where you were, walking a very, very fine line between it can go very, very dark very quickly to then these episodes ending and you feeling like you have control again. And this is what we don't, and we can talk about this a little bit later, what we don't realize is the amount of pressure we put ourselves under can then manifest in physical ways. There is so much research that then highlights how stress is the number one cause of cancer, and not other things as well. But when we actually look at the amount of pressure we're putting our mind, our body, our nervous system through, it's only natural for us to then identify one after another physical illnesses that then continue to debilitate us. And safe to say, you got handed such a significant diagnosis there that it's interesting that that finally was something that pulled you out. But I loved, honestly, the way that, you know, and I don't mean to be like overly positive here, but it sounds like you've been able to do a lot of work in shifting how you view that diagnosis, where it was actually, like you said, it was the luckiest thing that happened to me. And I'm wondering, did you feel that in that moment, or is that something that you think of your cancer diagnosis now that time has passed?
Well, I think I look at it this way. If it had just been cancer, it might have ruined me. Because it was everything, the cancer, losing wife, house, business, all in one big explosion. It was so much that I didn't feel it so devastating because it was everything all gone. The whole life I thought was me was just vanished. My story, my past, my belief had just gone. It had no valid place to live all of a sudden. So I wasn't feeling a loss as much as just an incredible abrupt turn. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And is that what then forced you to change when other things like hardships hadn't prior to that?
Well, another thing happened. You know, I've never believed in the lightning bolt moment. I've always thought that's sort of a Hollywood thing, you know, hit me like a ton of bricks, drop me to my knees, you know, sort of Hollywood drama. Never believed it, never experienced that. I'm making dinner one night, and in the background, I have a podcast on, and a man is talking about consciousness. And he said one line that dropped me to my knees. Literally, I couldn't breathe. It was unbelievable. All he said was, "Show me yesterday." That was it. Now, understand the psychology of a human being. Our whole life is based on our past. All our knowledge is in memory. Everything about us is remembered. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a self. We wouldn't know who we were. So my whole life is, I believe, my story. I call it the story mind. That man saying, "Show me yesterday," my mind said, I can't go to the cupboard and pull it out and go, "Hey, look, Klaudia, here's yesterday."
Yeah.
And I instantly went to, what is the reality of my story? What is its basis in reality? What is the security of that story? What is the truth of believing something? You believed things 10 years ago you don't believe today. You will believe things in 10 years that you don't believe today. So what's the truth in belief? These are the things that started rolling in my head. If my story isn't true, I've just believed a story, and I've allowed that belief to almost kill me. What is the rational, logical truth here? And over 3 months, that rolled in my head until one day it happened. It just vanished. The story is a lie. I have lived believing my traumas, my hurt, my pain, and letting that drag that hurt, emotional, heavy baggage with me, did it almost kill me by believing in that story. And when that became obvious and logical, the simplicity of life just exploded in front of me. There is no yesterday to hurt you from. There is no tomorrow to be anxious about and worried about. Your life, or my life, at that moment, there was no problem. There was no worry. There was no fear. There was no pain. Everything just melted away. And just said, you're here. That's the only place you are. You're not there, and you're not there and then, and in front of you and behind you don't exist. And as soon as I consciously swallowed that was it. That was 1.5 years ago, and I've been happy and laughing every day for 1.5 years since that happened.
Yeah. And I like that you identified there that it wasn't just this moment where it automatically made sense, right? You were curious and questioning and self-reflective and just churning over it over and over and over again. And we do need to I guess, highlight to our community that it's not going to be something that you let go of immediately, that it does require effort and energy to put into. But it is possible with anything that we put effort and energy into, learning a new language, mastering a new other skill. This is going to be the same thing. It has taken, depending on how old you are, 20, 30, 40, 60 years to develop these very, very ingrained belief systems that you have and that you live by. Of course, it's going to take a little bit of time to let go of them. But what you have identified there is something like planted a seed and you watered it. Every single day, you kept watering it until it was able to grow into something that made sense to you. It's as if everything just connected and you were able to step away from what was there as your belief system and see yourself as a separate entity to your thoughts, your narratives, your stories, and everything that has led up to that point of who you thought you were. And that naturally is such an empowering experience. And it doesn't necessarily just happen once in our lifetime when we put out all of our effort into it. It can happen at multiple stages of our life if we are actively engaging in that curiosity and self-reflective practice to then help develop and create a better sense of who we are and a more secure sense of self behind or away from those narratives, those stories, those belief systems that we have grown up with.
Yeah, and I would even say it takes no effort. The effort is being effortless. The trying puts up barriers and becomes resistance and struggle. It's when you surrender to what if. That was it for me. Open the door with, what if my story isn't true? What if I don't have to believe in that self? What if there's a different path? And
it's so
that's
interesting.
surrender.
Yeah, and it's so interesting you mentioned that because so many of us who suffer with anxiety, it's usually the what if in the negative sense, right?
Exactly.
What if things go wrong? What if I'm not good enough? What if they don't love me? And it's so interesting that you've identified that it's not the problem with what ifs, it's what connotation we put to the what ifs that then create either a spiral into anxiety and fear or an empowerment for us to be able to start making change. I love that you've highlighted that for us.
Yeah, and I think the what if even goes further in that it's not a target at all. It's an open-ended what if without any preconceived idea of possible. It's just opening the door that allows something to arrive. And that's what happened. Something arrived that said, your what if is right. I've come to this, we started by saying that maybe happiness is our destination for every human being. And I use this example now. I say, if you have ever had, or a friend, a brand new baby, and I mean a brand new baby, you look down into that baby's face and eyes, and what comes over you is not thought, is not thinking. It is a sense of beauty and love and happiness. That's all. That is not the baby. That's your reflection being reflected by the baby. That is you that's being reflected in that beautiful, innocent, loving, happy being. That's your reality being reflected. 6 weeks ago, my mother died. Just a few hours before her death, I looked down into her face and her eyes, and what do you think I saw? I saw the
same
baby.
things.
The same thing. I saw the baby. I saw love, beauty, happiness for the word of the joy of life. Not thinking, not worried about something, not regretting, not wishing, just that moment of being. That is the reflection of myself, not my mother. That's the reflection of myself, not the baby. We truly are the loving, beautiful happiness. That's all we are. They show up at the beginning and at the end of our life. The story is the creation in between that gets in the way of experiencing that start and that finish every day. That's all we're dealing with. The reality of our story. And we live in a society that starts us out right from the beginning to tell us it's out there. Achieve, grow, learn, jump through this hoop, measure up, get an A, not an F, go on to the next grade, go on to university, get a diploma, get a house, get a marriage, get a job, get a car. Everything is out there that will do what? It will fulfill you. This is what society teaches us. And then we have a tipping point, and the story changes culturally for this one reason. Success isn't given to everyone. 90% of people give up on their goals, give up on their dreams, decide to put up with the life they have, deal with where they are, cope with, manage with, get along. It's good enough. We get to a level that we survive well enough. We are happy enough. And so society suddenly changes its message and says, oh, it's not the goal. It's the journey. The journey is the thing. That's what you have to be happy in. And we are deceived again because it's not the journey. It is the destination of happiness. And so everyone is attached to things, to their car. And they say, I love my car. I love my house. I love my wife. I love my kids. We have it wrong. You don't love something. You are love being shared with something.
Oh, that's such a powerful way of looking at it.
You cannot love yourself. You are love. It's impossible to love yourself. We're confused in a possession. There is no possession. There's nothing to get. There's nothing to become. You already are. And we keep thinking we can fight for it, grind, hustle, have discipline, have courage, find healing. I now believe there is no healing in the world. It doesn't exist.
How so?
Trauma cannot be healed because it happened. It's a reality of the past that took place. It will never be erased. The only thing you can do from any psychological hurt is never to heal it, you leave it. And everyone who heals, in the end, what they did was leave it. They left it behind. They took the emotional baggage like the garbage from under your kitchen sink. They walked it out to the road, they put it down, and they walk away. Every cell in your body that deals with disease or anything, the cells around the disease die. They don't heal. They walk away. The new cells come, and they're the ones that repair. Everything that we repair in our lives, it's because we leave it. I love my car. I've had it for 20 years. I have fabulous memories in my car and trips I've taken, friends we've gone on road trips with, gone camping. My God, I even had sex in my car. This thing is full of attachment and emotion and energy. I love it. And then my car begins to break down. And I'm sad. And I'm hurt. My poor car. And I keep trying to fix it and repair it and heal it, but I can't. In the end, I walk away from the car and I go get a new car. And we have to do that with everything in our life that is that baggage. In the end, you walk away.
It's interesting that you're actually explaining it in this way because people's healing journey looks different, right? Some people think that they will be able to heal from trauma in the way that you originally described, that you're able to forget about it, or some people think that it'll be not part of their past. The reality is, like, when we look at healing, and I work with individuals who've experienced all types of trauma on the spectrum, we want to, trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what meaning you put to the situation, and then how you then react to the event happening that
Absolutely.
causes then trauma.
Yes.
Right. So I think when we look at healing from trauma, we can't change what has happened in the past. What we do change is then its involvement to us. So I think I just want to clarify, like there is a concept of, I think, healing from your own emotional label that you put to events that you can definitely have control over and changing. But I think what I'm hearing you trying to explain is that it doesn't stop from the actual event still happening. The event is an event, and being able to move past that and let it be part of your past. And I think this is where people in their experience of trauma get stuck, is the past becomes their present, and that's why they keep reliving their trauma over and over and over again. And those who are, I would like to say, good therapists are able to identify that and help them separate themselves from the trauma through modalities and strategies and things like that. But you're right. I think when we look at healing, the healing journey, you're never actually going to change the past experiences of what has happened. It is about then working through how you have experienced those things that have created difficulties for you in your life. Yeah, that's really powerful to be able to see the distinction there in people's versions of healing.
And this is where radical responsibility shows up. Because you're not responsible for the event, the traumatic event, which I call the trauma drama that happened. You're not responsible for that, okay? You were just in the way. You probably weren't even really the target, because trauma comes mostly from another person, and it's them releasing their pain. They're trying to get out of their trauma, and they throw it out in the world. If you happen to be standing in front of it, guess what happens? It hits you. That event is the reality you're not responsible for. But from that day forward, you take responsibility for the care, the feeding, the nurturing of your trauma, the keeping it in your emotional baggage, keeping it with you, close at hand. You actually care for it. It becomes a part of your identity. I am this traumatized person. I am this hurt. We own it. And that's where radical responsibility has to separate everything and say, you're carrying something that you are responsible for the carrying, not for the creation. And the
love that. And
and the carrying is a memory. And when you investigate memory, you're faced with a new reality. 75% of Klaudia's life, Klaudia can't remember right now.
Nope.
It's impossible to remember. Tell me what you had for breakfast on September 14th, 2005. Tell me right now.
I have no idea.
So
wait, 2005. Yeah, no. Definitely. I thought you said 25. I'm like, September 2025 hasn't happened. But no, and this is what I teach my clients in trauma, right? Is that when we have events that don't have an emotional charge, our brain is able to process it, naturally through its natural processing systems, through our prefrontal cortex, our logical brain, our hippocampus, our memory organizer, and it gets stored in our long-term memory. It doesn't have a charge. We don't get influenced by it. What we know of trauma is that those natural processing capabilities of the brain are hindered, and therefore it then creates this reliving of the trauma because it is stuck and stagnant in someone's memory, and it really influences their response in everything that they experience.
And further, I would say that all emotional baggage is a mutation of memory. Not designed for us to keep it even. That our brain was designed for what I call the toolbox mind. And that's the mind of learning techniques, tools, skills that allow us to live. And that the story mind, the drama, the pain and suffering is a mutation of memory. It wasn't supposed to be stored. It wasn't supposed to be kept. But because all humans have fear as one of the root instincts of being for thousands of years, and maybe it's from the trauma of birth, it is the first feeling that can happen to a human. It creates the mutation, a place to store bad stuff. And so if we look at memory and go, well, 75% of it don't remember. So the mind must be doing this for a reason. It knows, well, you need to have lots of free space to function. You can't fill it up with junk. So the junk I'm filling it with is a memory. How does memory get stored and kept? Well, I have to go and sit down in the theater and watch the movie, and then watch it again, and then watch it again. I have to listen to the song on the radio every day, and pretty soon I can sing along and I know every word. That's how I keep my trauma, because I'm familiar. I know it. The devil I know how to deal with, even if it's a horrible pain I think I can't live with.
Yeah.
What a trick. What a fooling that goes on within us. And that's why this Show Me Yesterday was so explosive in the disreality of the reality I was living in. That came clear that I was responsible for everything. And so what I did was say, I'm responsible for all of it, even the things I don't think I'm responsible for. Take it all. For this theory of the mind, you cannot put down something that you don't first own. So if blame and the past and someone else is at fault, I can't be responsible, so I can't put the bag down. I have to first take it as my own and actually own it. Then I can say, I can put it down now because it's mine.
Yeah, radical responsibility, I believe, is a very key concept in psychological healing. It's about shifting from external blame to internal ownership. And this doesn't mean excusing abuse or trauma, but recognizing that we have the power to rewrite our story moving forward. And that is such a pivotal and important message that we would like to share with our community. In this episode, a majority of the episodes that I have on the platform.
Yeah, it's a tool. You have a tool that you can take out of your toolbox mind and say, I can own all of the garbage, and then I get to put it down because you can own it. It doesn't mean it's yours. It just means you can use the tool to dislodge it from attachment at a distance, the blame, the past, all those things, and bring it into a useful today, which is getting rid of it. That's the tool.
Yeah, Dallas, and this kind of brings me to a thought from our discovery call. When we initially spoke, you said that the self that perpetuated the pain has to die. That's a super powerful statement that I remember from our discussion.
Yeah.
How do you let go of the old version of yourself? Because I think that bleeds from what we've just been talking about. And I wanted to kind of really get your understanding of what you meant by that in your own healing journey and growth journey.
Okay, for me, for many, many years, I was a real believer in personal development. Set goals, be disciplined, create new habits, live different, change myself. Self is this key word. Change myself, build a new me, be strong. I believe this incredibly. I did this every year or many times a year, wrote down goals, the steps I would take to get there, and it would always fail. And I looked at the whole industry on its whole. I mean, it's been going on for 2,000 years since the Stoics. They've been teaching all this personal development. Why isn't it working? 50 years ago, Stanford does a study, 95% of people don't reach their goals. Why? And today, the same study, 95% of people don't reach the goals. $100 billion, 250,000 books, experts on stages and in videos telling us how we can, win and succeed and change. Why isn't it working? And it came to me. Here's the self. My self is the story, I believe. Here's personal development. I'm just going to put it on top and it's going to change something. It's not. The story hasn't changed. And so I realized this mantra today, believe in yourself. I realized we've got it wrong. It's don't believe in yourself, because the self you're believing in doesn't believe in you. That's why it can't
that's
change.
super powerful.
That's why you don't change it, because that's what you really believe. I was in the middle of fighting to try and reach a goal, and the other side, this little voice was saying, you can't do it. You're not strong enough. You're not smart enough. You're not good enough. That was the self that I really believed, my story. The fake self I'm trying to create can't override the story. This is the fundamental program. It can't be overridden, and it never will be. I realize you leave yourself. Why do you need a self? Why do you need an image? Why do you need a picture of who you think you are? What for? It doesn't do anything. You are this person in front of me right now on this screen. I am the person you're seeing. We are right here, talking with each other, sharing. This is love. This is beauty.
Yeah.
This is life. I don't need a self. So I simply say to people, finish the statement, I am. And the person goes, I am a teacher. I am a father. I am a son. I am a brother. I am a carpenter. I am a plumber. I am smart. I am stupid. I am strong. I am weak. I am, on and on and on. Well, that's all ego. Every single piece of that is ego. That's the story mind, the deception. I am. That's it.
That's it.
There is no
You
after
exist
I
in
am.
this moment as you are. That is it.
Look in the
This
baby.
reminds me. Yeah, sorry. This also reminds me of the book that changed my life. It was such a pivotal moment, and I may have mentioned it on another episode. The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer talks exactly about that, where it separates you. You are the one that's experiencing it. You are the one that is thinking those, you're not the one, you are the observer of your thoughts, of your experiences, of your emotions, and you're separate to that. And I love the way that you're articulating it, and he does too in the book, where it is just I am. Nothing more, nothing less. You exist. And we sometimes have such a fear of just acknowledging that. It's a really hard concept for majority of us to accept.
And here's what I think the fear is. The fear is you are no thing. We all want to be something. The attachment to the outside world is I need to get something, become something, reach something, mean something, have a purpose, have, get, reward, receive, achieve. All these things are things. You are no thing. And when you are not attached to a thing, you are indeed everything. When you look at the baby's face and you see the love and the beauty and the happiness, that is the blue sky and sunshine that you are. The story is the clouds covering the blue sky that you see and you feel and you think is yourself. And everyone has experienced the sunshine and blue sky. Everyone has walked out onto a beach and the ocean waves pounding, and for a moment they're in awe. They're not thinking, they're not labeling or judging whether the waves are good enough or the sight is good enough. They're just in it. That is I am. You're experiencing it in a moment. And those moments happen to us, for some people, many. They go hiking in the wilderness and they have those moments. They meet someone who just blows them away and they have that moment. Falling in love can be that moment of just experiencing beauty and this loving feeling. So it's always there in the background. Our struggle is what we cover it up with. Our story, our belief in the self we think we are. The who is what we self-think. The what is the blue sky and sunshine. We are not a who, we are what we are. The blue sky and sunshine, the love and the happiness, the caring, the sharing, that's what we are. That's why we all have the best memories in those moments. The childhood Christmas memory of the magic and that just open, unlabeled beauty and love of it. That's it. That's the experience. And the mind jumps in right even then. As a child, it did. You found yourself in all the wrapping paper going, oh, is that it? What just happened? Well, you just stepped out of the beauty because the mind, the story jumped in and started judging. Was it good enough? Was it bright enough? Was the taste sweet enough? It began judging and labeling and comparing and takes you into your story and out of your true what that you are. Well, in those moments of awe, of experience, just that love, beauty, happiness, without any judgment, without any comparison. Those moments last very little because the deceptive ego is so strong, it wants to be alive. It doesn't like you there because you might not need your story. And so the story leaps in with a thought. Yeah, but that's not that great. Or, oh, yes, there's something wrong here. It throws you out of that experience. It's scared to death of it. Have someone sit down, turn off every screen, the lights, just sit on a chair and try and be still in your mind. Most people, it's very difficult. It's very uncomfortable. And pretty soon a million thoughts are flying in your head. That's the deceptive story jumping in saying, you can't be still, because that's dangerous to your story. Because if you can find happiness and real calmness of mind in that love and beauty, you don't need your story. And your story knows that. That's part of your subconscious that knows it's fragile.
And there's two things I want to say there. On one hand, what you're describing there are moments of being quite, and this takes practice, quite conscious in being present in your lived experience, whatever that might be. A moment of walking in the sunshine, feeding your dogs, hugging someone. It doesn't matter what it is. They're just intricate tiny little moments where you are fully present, where you are surrounding yourself with others. The other thing that you're kind of highlighting there is the importance of finding moments of stillness. We are a product of the addiction to everything, and rightly so. We are creating a platform for people to listen. I get it. We are engaging them to be distracted from themselves, but I guess we're trying to find this balance between what we are encouraging, which is to find stillness and silence and see what comes up and spend time with what comes up. And there are going to be times where you're still going to have one foot in that experience or that practice, and then one foot in the reality that you live in. It's okay to have this dual attention between the two as you're strengthening and connecting to deeper parts of yourself that you're trying to develop through these practices,
Yeah, we don't want to make it so complicated.
Yeah.
It's actually incredibly simple. And we all know the story mind of the sleepwalker that you spend most of your life in. You drive home from work. After work one day, you're a little tired. You walk into the house, you slap your keys down on the kitchen counter, and the sound of the keys hitting the counter make you go, you sort of wake up and you go, I don't remember driving home. I don't remember anything about that drive. How can that be possible? That awakening is awakening. That's how simple it is. All it means is your attention has been brought to now. We sleepwalk with habits and routines every day that allow us to function without actually being present and thinking about it. We've practiced sleepwalking. If you're 50 years old, you practiced for 50 years. You're very good at it. It's a skill. When I started to recover and rebuild my life, I put a sticky note, there's still one on my TV screen behind me. It says, get off your ass. And for me, it's the TV looking at me and telling me, get off your ass. Wake me up. Be present. Don't just sit there and stare at it. I put a sticky note on my fridge. It says, what's going into your mouth? To wake me up when I get to the fridge and not eat as a sleepwalker and think about what I'm going to eat. A sticky note on my front door says, go for a walk today. It's just 30 minutes. I have to continually put attention, so I'm constantly waking up during my day because we constantly fall asleep in our day.
Yeah, and I love that you've distinguished that, because we want to normalize being kind of mindless, switched off, numb, distracted, or even disassociated, depending on where you are on the spectrum of that. It's natural for us. We live in that type of world, and of course you're going to be switched off. So we want to normalize that it's okay for you to continue ebbing and flowing into that. And I guess what you, Dallas, just highlighted there is just very, very basic things that you can do around your space to help create that insight, help mindfulness, help attention and awakening. And that's all it is. We're just trying to acknowledge, where are you right now in this moment? And and that it can build from there, of course, but I love that you've just simplified it to then get you to be like, oh yeah, I'm here in my body experiencing this moment of existence.
So I'll take it a step further. When you're in attention to anything, when you're in attention dealing with your child or doing a job at work, wherever you are focused with attention, it is impossible for the past, for pain or regret to be present. It is impossible for anxiety and fear about the future to be present. None of those things can live when you're in attention. The minute you leave the attention, you think about, oh, I have to do this in 10 minutes. Or, oh, I shouldn't have said that yesterday in that meeting. But that means you're not in attention. So the more you practice being in attention, the less practice you're giving being in the past or the future, in regret or anxiety. And that's all it is. You're practicing not being in those states. So over time, you get better and better at paying attention and at thinking instead of just having thoughts. Because thoughts come from the past and the future. Thinking is here and now, doing. So the more you stay thinking and not thoughting, the healthier you become, the happier you become. I say to people, are you a thoughter? They're like, what are you talking about? I said, are you a thinker? Well, yeah. Do you have thinks? What are you talking about? Do you have thoughts? Well, yeah. So we have to distinguish. Thoughts are not thinking. Thoughts are memory just coming up out of the dust of your mind, and usually from the baggage, the story. The thought comes up because I dropped a cup yesterday morning, my coffee. It smashes on the floor. And a thought comes into my mind, and the voice jumps in, you dummy, you're always doing stupid things. You're not paying attention. And I associate myself as the thought. And I go, yeah, that's me. Oh, I'm such an idiot. And I agree with my thought. I'm attaching to my story. It's lying to me. It's fooling me to keep me believing in the story. The reality
and that
is
just perpetuates it.
The spiral
over and
begins,
over and over again.
and we run around
and
in
it's
circles down the
interesting.
spiral.
And it's interesting because, like, let's say, right, growing up, you had a parent who said comments to you that directly or indirectly had the message not good enough, right?
Right.
Let's say there's less contact with that parent, or you've moved away, or whatever it is. It's then us ourselves repeating those narratives that then create further belief system. So I want to kind of differentiate. While we want to understand our past and what has shaped us, absolutely, we also want to take, and I love this about the responsibility we're talking about. We need to acknowledge that again, that blame, external blame, that can only go so far. It's, well, because of that, we've now gotten into these patterns, but those patterns in our adult life, they're our responsibility. We're the ones that are actually believing this narrative and not questioning it and continuously, fueling it, irrespective of whether our parents are still in our life saying the same narratives. There is needing to be this responsibility that we can't keep blaming our parents. This is just an example, of course, for how we feel about ourselves, or we can't, blame our boss, or we can't blame this, or we can't blame that. Well, the reality is these are things that are going to trigger that narrative, absolutely. But we are the ones that are believing it and continuously spiraling with it, that then is creating a shift in our emotional state and then further deepening our belief in those narratives.
Yeah. And once I consciously drove into me that it's a lie, it's a story, I started laughing. Every time that voice arrived, I would start laughing at it because I could see the silliness of myself. And so when I did, and it became a comedy to me, when that movie started to play, I would laugh and it just dissolves. Because it cannot live if you don't attach to it. If you don't take ownership of that thing and say it is me, it doesn't survive. It just starts to vanish right away because it has no strength without you taking ownership, attaching to it, grabbing it, holding it tight. It just dies. So I say to people, hold all your beliefs loosely, not tightly. Because the reality is only in the tightness you hold them. That's
And be curious about them.
Yeah.
Be curious, be reflective, question them. Yes, exactly.
What if?
Exactly.
That's why, the title of your podcast was such a great hook to me, because it is maybe the greatest tool we have is to be self-reflective, to be able to stand outside of ourselves, almost dispassionately away and look at ourselves. I often get people to begin practicing recording their story in their phone as a video and do it 8-10 times and begin playing it back, watching their movie of them telling their story. It allows you to detach from it and look at it objectively. And the mind will begin to say, oh, what if? Maybe I've got that wrong. That memory seems different. I told that a little differently 3 weeks ago. How come I told the story a little different? All the what ifs start creeping in, and it breaks down the validity of that self. So you can do this to yourself. But like you say, it takes practice. That's all.
It's not
hard.
It does.
It takes practice. You've got to push yourself to do it. So everyone has the strength to do this. No one is special here. No one has a unique talent. You already have all the knowledge in you. It's always present. You're just buried it. You've covered it with a story and you don't see it. All the gold, all the nuggets and diamonds are lying right there in your life. And everyone's got the strength to find them and use them. So I hate the idea that someone's got a special knowledge, a method that's going to do it to you. The spectrum is so vast, there isn't one way. There is your way. But everyone can go to the same place, that beauty and love and happiness. How you get there, you have to find your path. I say we all walk a hard road. We just wear different shoes.
Yes, indeed. Writing can be a therapeutic tool. We know it externalizes emotions and reframes suffering into meaning. Dallas, you've written multiple books about healing and resilience. What are some of the core messages in a few of them?
I think it's what I just said. You have all the ability, all the tools, all the skills already in you. We are a collective consciousness. The reason you are a story mind, your culture has a similar story mind. When you think you're going to find happiness by attaining something or achieving something, you have an entire culture that tells you about the external world and how it affects you. So you are already connected to it all. You have it all. You need to disconnect. I say it's not self-improvement, it's self-removement. Take yourself out of all this attachment because it has no necessity to you. You already have everything. You are this loving, beautiful, smart creature. You're just here to share it with each other and enjoy this thing. Not fight and grind and try, and that's not where it's at. That's a fool's game. That's why we keep doing it for decades and centuries and millennia. Hasn't changed.
Looking back, what would you say to your younger self who felt unworthy and stuck?
My younger self wouldn't have listened, so it doesn't matter.
I love that because it just kind of normalizes that sometimes we fall into the trap of, trying to kind of give messages to younger selves. And I do a lot of inner work as well with inner child. And I think when we try and connect with that, it's more to connect to your inner child today. And strengthen that inner child work today, rather in the present moment, rather than looking at what it is that, it was going to be from the past. But thank you. Because it then kind of helps us understand.
When I came out of the other side, as I call it, I went to that inner child. I went to that 8-year-old boy who was so hurt and angry, pissed off at authority, at adults, at the world around him. And I realized he's not going to heal. He's teaching me that I need to heal. And so all I did was say, thank you. I got the message. Goodbye.
Oh, I love that.
That's it.
Because again, it kind of puts the emphasis on, we call it the healthy adult in some of the schema therapy that I work with. It's that the work needs to happen for to grow your healthy adult, to be able to be the version of yourself that you actually have always needed.
And that you have always been. It's always been there. It's been waiting for you to catch up. It's like it's been waiting for you to catch up. Hey, you're back there behind me. Come on. You keep stumbling and tripping. Get up here. And that's what life is. We go through this road of falling down and getting a bloody nose and wondering why it's so tough. And when we get there, we go, oh, this is it? This is kind of easy. I was in a 20-year marriage where I'm entangled. We have a house together, cars together, business accounts together, bank accounts together, children together. Our life is together. How could we possibly tear it apart? How could you get out of it? How could you leave it? It's too hard. And then when the moment came and I drove away from that home, the mind went, hold it. It was that easy? Where's all the pain of leaving? There wasn't any, because it was over. And you suddenly go, oh my God, I created the complexity. I created the difficulty and the struggle. It was never there. It was only me believing it was there. And the minute you walk away, when I quit alcohol, the moment I quit, I quit. There was no quitting. It just happened because the realization was there. I drank because of the baggage. I thought I was protecting myself from the pain with the medication. As soon as I realized the pain wasn't real, the medication was unneeded. And it ended. No withdrawal, no worry, no fear. It just stopped. And you instantly have to look and go, it is simple. This thing is so simple. And that's why it's hard. Our whole lives are taught about the complexity and the difficulty, the storm of the world around us. It can't be easy. You stand up and say, I'm struggling. I'm struggling with my mental health. I'm coming out to encourage others. And people go, oh, you're so brave. You're so courageous. We're so supportive. I stand up and say, I have no problem, no worry, no fear, no pain. I'm happy all the time. And people look at me and go, what are you, a weirdo? What's wrong with you? And you think about that.
Yeah.
I'm now in the simplicity of life and loving it the complexity of life was incredibly painful. But because the whole cultural story agrees with it, it's normal. Don't be normal.
If that's going to be the title of today's podcast episode, don't be normal.
Don't
I love
be
that.
normal.
Dallas, how can our community get in touch with you if they want to follow your work or just connect with you?
Well, this day and age, if you've got my name, I can't hide.
I love that.
Dallas Collis, you find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. The books are on Amazon. The Gift is the Present is my latest book. It's just, you can't hide really today. So
no, you can't.
No.
And of course, I'll put all of the links to your books in the description below and all of your handles as well. So for those who are interested, please head on down to the description below. Dallas, thank you for your time, your vulnerability, and the work that you do to help others. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with you today.
And thank you, Klaudia. And I want to thank you for being in the forefront of the revolution of a democratic voice online that's sharing all these thoughts with so many people. Because you're the person who's helping this happen and is helping the world transition to a better place. You are the most important person in the world. I am the most important person in the world. We are all the most important person in the world. And we've got to share that with each other.
We absolutely do. And thank you for your kind words. For our community, thank you for tuning into the Self Reflections podcast. If you found value in today's episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below to share your thoughts. Until next time, take care and keep reflecting.